Welcome, fellow wine lovers. This is the Wine Ghost podcast. I'm Matej Vas, a certified sommelier and seeker of hidden stories behind the most mysterious drink in history. For more information or direct contact, please look for the Wine Ghost on Instagram and Facebook. But now, please grab a glass, get comfortable, and listen to how the day's ghosts get out of the bottle. Today's guest is Simon Gattinger, 22-year-old winemaker from the Wachau Valley, Austria. He inherited precious vineyard sites in the eastern side of the valley and took the courage to establish his own wine label a couple years ago. He shared his plans and main considerations behind his new plantings, revealed some secrets about the precious soil compositions of the Wachau, and emphasized the importance of recently becoming a member of the Vinea Wachau. We also tasted 3 nuanced wines via Skype together, where Simon explained his winemaking philosophy and gave some tips for interesting wine pairings. This guy is bursting with motivation, so listen to his ambitions and try his wines. They won't let you down. After this talk, you could also watch the video on YouTube with me tasting his wines with some utterly delicious food pairing, and with Simon sending his greetings from his vineyards with a stunning view. But now, please grab your glass and enjoy. Simon, welcome to the show. How are you today, sir?
Thank you. I'm fine. How are you?
Yeah, I'm doing great. I already tried your wines yesterday and they were really nice, so I was really excited to speak to the maker. So it's a great honor.
Perfect. Yeah, thank you.
What are you currently doing in the vineyards or in the cellar in these times?
Currently doing so now, it's like a little bit slowed down, but I don't want to say that right now. So it's like just a little bit of slowdown. But first, now we pruned our wines in January and February. Now we tied them down. And now I'm looking for the soil. So I'm bringing out fertilizations and looking also in the vineyards where we have our irrigation hoses to prepare them and fix them for the new year. And also, in the Wachau, the terraces is also a big part. So we're rebuilding some stone walls where we have time right now and do everything to get it ready for the new vintage and for the years. And that's the main part what we do right now. And also a big part what is coming in the next 2 to 3 weeks. So in beginning of May, I'm preparing to replanting or to planting out a new vineyard. And that's also a lot of work what we have to do right now.
Wow, that's exciting. Where?
Yeah, we do it. It's called the single vineyard. It's called Burgstall. And there we do it. Now we plant a new Riesling. And that's going to be my Riesling Federspiel, maybe 2, 3, 4 years. We will see how is it going. Yeah.
Wow, nice. So tell me a little bit about this reed or lager or cru.
Yeah.
Why did you decide to plant Riesling there?
Yeah, because like for me, from my side, we have our family. We have 3 hectares of vineyards, and there was also one part, so like 2 hectares we produced or we made wine ourselves, and 1 hectare we give it to other vintners, so they have the vineyards but under our name. But we changed that, so I'm now the owner since 2017, and now I'm getting back all the vineyards from the other vintners, and now we are using them for ourselves. And now it's like a perfect single vineyard for Riesling. Of course, it's not like really deep soil and everything, but it's really a perfect vineyard for like classical medium-bodied Federspiel. And there I want to try the Riesling Federspiel there, and that's really I'm looking forward to that and see how it is going. Yeah.
And how do you really decide in the Wachau which grape variety to plant? I mean, the Riesling and Grüne Veltliner are the 2 main grapes, but how would you maybe differentiate between the crus?
That's always a big part, and that's what for me, of course, is pretty new because the Wachau is really complex. You have all the tenure, the influence you have from the climate, you have from the soil, and I think for this part is a good question because there you need a lot of experience, and I'm pretty young, so I really have to learn everything about the Wachau because it's really sometimes I need maybe my whole life to learn everything, getting more in detail with the Wachau. And that's also a part. So for me, I decided, because for me it was like this, I need a Riesling for a Federspiel, and this was for me also a perfect part. I looked where I can plant it out. I asked some other vintners, some colleagues, so other winemakers, and they gave me the recommendation, and I talked to them, and I looked in the soil and everything, and I decided then at the Burgstall, there will be the right part for Riesling because it's a little bit later ripe normally, and that's also perfect there on this single vineyard. And that's, like I told you, it's really a good question, but for me, sometimes, as a young winemaker, I really have to learn a lot, and the Wachau is so complex and everything, so that's a part.
And do you you are looking at also at the soil and at the microclimate, right?
Yeah, right.
These are the two main factors? Or?
Yeah, right. So that's like when I think about, always talk about the Wachau, because like in the Wachau, it is so complex. You have on the one side, on the east side, you have the Pannonic climate, and on the west side, like coming down in Spitz, on the other, like I always say, the end of the Wachau, in Spitz and there, that's cooler climate. And here in the east, it's more warmer climate, and also the soil. So one thing is the climate, and the other thing is the soil, and that's really different. Also, it changes every, I will say, 5 kilometers, something like this, changes the soil through the whole Wachau, and that's also some parts where you have to look, and these you really keep that in mind what you do. And that's, like I told you, why you need a big experience for everything, that you know which grape variety and where you can plant it and what you want to make out of it. So I think always before you plant, you have, for you, when you make wine, you have to be a goal, what you want to do with the grapes and which wine style and everything, and then you have to decide. So there's a lot of factors what you have to keep in mind before you plant out a vineyard.
And you already said that you asked other winemakers in the region. So is it really like a strong community there in the Wachau?
Yeah, for me, like, we have the Vinea Wachau in our region, and this is really this is an association of winemakers. Do you know something about the Vinea Wachau?
Yes, sure.
Yeah. So
but you can tell more if you want.
Yeah, so like the Vinea Wachau is like an association and established in 1983. And it's a really old association of winemakers, and always the goal of the Vinea Wachau was to protect like a little bit the Wachau, that not investors come into and I don't know, like buy some vineyards and then make wine and then don't have a relation really to Wachau. So that was always the part. And that that was really great, and I'm really thankful that we have that now, that the Vinea Wachau is really an association close to really a lot of winemakers in the Wachau are member of this association. And this is really, when Vinea Wachau is on the bottle, you have the Wachau in it, so it's not allowed to buy some grapes from outside, or it's really like, it's not, and also it's like a little natural, of course, because we don't wanna that we add to the wine some flavors or something like that. So that's my mean with natural, and it's all handwork, so it's really hand-picked. It's not allowed for harvest machine, something like that, and that's really great of the Vinea Wachau, that you have an association, and also furthermore in the marketing and export, because you are coming as a team, and you present the Wachau together and not alone, so that you're really in a team, and everything. When you're in a team, you're stronger, and that's really a big part. And yeah, I'm lucky. I did it. I'm now since this year is my first vintage where I'm member of this and of the Vinea Wachau, and I'm really proud of. And that's why we have really like a good, I will say, with the winemakers, good climate, or you say, when you have all the people together, you can ask people who have more experience, what's going on, how do you think this, and you can, it's like a big, always say, your horizon gets a little bit bigger with other meanings of other people. And of really, I think for me, some winemakers are idols, of course, because what they build up or how they made the Wachau, of course, that's really great, and there I can learn a lot from them.
So why was it really important to you? Because you also have, you can also use this Vinea Wachau stamp as a quality stamp, right?
Of course, yeah, of course. So that's what I mentioned before. When Vinea Wachau is, you can read wherever you are, and you need Vinea Wachau on the bottle or see the logo, the brand, then really only the Wachau is inside. And that's really like a quality stamp, of course, because they will have some regulations what you have to do for a winemaking step, and also in the vineyard, and then you really know what you get. And furthermore, maybe when it's like what we have, the classifications, what we established, or what they established in 1984, it's Steinfeder, Federspiel, and Smaragd. And these three categories are really right now, where you are. So when you get a Federspiel, that's a medium-bodied wine, but still character and everything, and you know what you get. And that's really great. And of course, it's a quality sample, and it's, of course, marketing as well.
You also do like tastings in this group amongst the members, like official tastings?
Right. So normally we do also some tasting. So we are right now also to establish some younger winemakers come together and talk about the wines, so that we really easy way, so that we come together, everybody's bringing his wine what he wants, and then we discuss, we taste the wines, and then we discuss, okay, maybe what you can do better, which that we learn something more also about the single vineyards and everything. So that's what we are also sometimes coming together and do that, of course. Yeah.
There is also a card game now, right? In the Wachau.
Yeah, right. That's pretty cool. Yeah, I highly can recommend the card game. So it's a really nice game where you can learn a lot about the single vineyards. I played it. Yeah, 2 days ago already I played it, and it's really nice where you get really everything about the sea level, you get about the soil and everything. So there's on the card game, and you learn a lot during playing, and that's really nice.
Good idea. I think more wine agents would need something like this.
Yeah.
And so where did your motivation come from actually to become a winemaker? Because how old are you now?
Yeah, I'm 22 years now. I'm getting 23 in a few months, and I'm really young, of course. And for me, I mean, I can tell you that for a long time ago, a few years ago, some of my friends always played soccer on the fields, and for me, first my dad always asked me if I can help him in the vineyard. So for me, it was, of course, I can help him. And it was for me first, it was like a work, And then I decided to go in 2011. I go to the wine school in Klosterneuburg. It's one of the highly recommended wine schools in Austria, and it's 5 years. And there I really learned what's behind the bottle, So like, there's really, I was thinking about first it's only the wine, but there I learned really what's behind a wine bottle. So what's going on and the diversity of the work, what you have. So one time from the vineyard work, then also the winemaking, then also, for example, the marketing, what you do. And then of course, when you are traveling around or you export your wines and something like that. So really you need new people and you make people happy with them, with your product, and you stand behind them. And that was for me like a big motivation that I say, okay, I can make my wines, or I can make wines behind my philosophy and with my what I prefer in wines, and then I can mark them as my product. So that was a really big I will think part why what I liked that wine and everything.
Did you also drink a lot of wine before, or
yeah,
not a lot, but I think
for me it was like always it was a good question, because my dad was tasting a lot of wines every time, and I was also tasting wines, but for me it was first time hard, and it was really still I'm learning. So I think every wine with a try, I really try to understand the wine and where it's coming from, and to really storage all the information what I have in my brain. So that's really a part, and you only, it sounds funny, but it's really learning by tasting, and that's a big part. You can taste a lot of wines, and I started to taste, but it was for me sometimes really hard to decide, okay, what's this style and this style. And now I'm tasting a lot of wines right now and really try to get more knowledge, so on. But I'm still learning, of course.
And you mostly drink Wachau wine, or?
No, I mean, that's a big part. That's also a good question. I mean, Wachau wines are really great, and I like the wines, but I'm also looking further, So I also like to taste sometimes wines of Kremstal, Kamptal, whatever, what they do, or like also Germany, what I really like. Also, of course, wines from Napa Valley, some good red wines, or of course in Austria. So I also like really Austrian wines, but for me, always interesting what's going on in the other countries. And so I'm still drinking close to everything, and yeah, it's still everything's learning. But I know there's so many wines at the market, and it's really hard. But I think it's really nice to have that you have really a big diversity, and you can choose what you want, or you learn every time when you get a new country or whatever, you taste the new wines and you get new knowledge about it. So that's really nice.
And you also taste probably different crus in the Wachau, from the Wachau, right?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
And can you, or for the general consumer, how would you distinguish maybe the west part and the east part of the Wachau, or how would you find it in the bottle?
Yeah, that's a really good part, and that's always because I told you before, that's one time is the climate, other one is the soil, and that's on the climate because in the eastern part we have the Pannonic climate, and that's really warm. So the wines are here close to the towns in Leuben, Dürnstein here. In the eastern part as well, the wines are more fruity. And when it comes to then Weißenkirchen, the next town then afterwards, there's also soil difference. So there's more the less soil, and then down to the Spitz and Spitzergraben, there's coming the influence of the Atlantic climate. And so these wines have a cooler climate, and these wines are more the minerality. So there is really, sometimes you can really taste perfectly the difference between a single vineyard in the eastern part and the western part. So there's really fruitiness and minerality, and there you can decide what you really want, and that's really great. And it's only when I think about, it's not that far, and the wines are so different. So that's the main part. So that's always what I mention, is the climate and the soil who makes it so different.
And your family, because you said you inherited some vineyards from your family, right?
Yes, right.
Do they also help you nowadays in the vineyard, or how should we imagine, like you are the hero of the family, kind of, who overtook the winery and does everything alone, or?
No, so it was like this from my history. My grandfather already produced wine, and then my father took it over. And then we had in 1997, we stopped to produce wine because we had some family troubles. And then we stopped to produce wine and changed to the grape producers. So then since 1997, we did the whole work in the vineyard, and then we sold the grapes to private vintners in the Wachau. And my motivation 2017 came then up to do that everything, to start everything from the bottom, I would say, with new label and new philosophy and everything, but still with the vineyards from my dad. And this was the part that now my dad and my mother, so my family, of course, is helping me. But the decision, I'm deciding what we are going to do and everything, and they're helping me a lot. And we also have, like in the vineyards, we also have, sometimes it depends on how it goes, but we also have some seasonal workers. And also during the harvest, I have like a 10 people harvest crew who is helping me, and we are trying to get out the best what we can. So then we are sometimes only family, and sometimes we have seasonal workers.
So you also have your vineyards, and you also have your winery, or you do this in another winery? How should we imagine this?
Now, so I have 3 hectares of vineyards in the Wachau, and I also have my own cellar where I produce my wines. So I'm trying now, in the next few years, I will rebuild my cellar, but I still have it my own, and I have everything to it by my own.
Perfect. And now we already mentioned the wines, maybe let's try the first one. What do you say?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
So you were kind enough to send me 3 beautiful bottles. With the hashtag Wine Against Corona, which I loved. I loved that a great deal. It was a great hashtag. So we should start with the Federspiel Grüne Veltliner, right?
Of course. Yeah.
So tell me about this beautiful label, if you.
Yeah, the label is also something what I decided. So the label is really, like I told you before, I started from the bottom. So my label is like, you see my name, that's Gattinger Simon, and that's really like, also it's not straight or something like that. So it's a little bit elegant, and that should be recommended on me because I'm young and also like elegant, and this is why the font is like this. Then behind, or in the golden, you have the Danube. That's the Danube who is going through the Wachau Valley. And behind you also have in the structure what I decided when I established the label, is this my first vineyard rows where I produced my first wines of. So this is the structure behind of my label.
Beautiful labels. You also won a design prize for this, right? Or...
Yeah, right. Yeah, last year it was also really great. So there was a prize, design prize. First, there was close to 500 wineries are put the labels or said okay they want to take with the award, and then after that, the jury decided 20 witness or 20 labels out of it. And then we had a blind tasting they did. And then I won out of 500 wineries. Yeah, it was really great.
Yeah, congratulations. Good
stuff. Yeah.
And just about talking your winemaking philosophy before we taste the wines again. Like what is your general approach to making wine, and what kind of wines do you want to produce?
That's also what I learned so far in my years, because I told you before, in the wine school, and I did a lot of internships in Austria, as well in Switzerland, Germany, and also in the US already. And there I tried to get my philosophy of my wines out. And this one now, right, I like wines like in a Wachau, when you have a little bit of finesse, the minerality, of course, also the fruitiness, and also that you really, what for me is always very important, that you, when you drink a glass of wine, that you get thirsty of more, that's also a big part. And of course, in the Wachau, it's for me that the origin, that you can taste the origin, the Wachau, when you're have it in your nose and everything. So that's the character of the origin is also a big part what I try to get out of my wines. That's the big my grapes. Yeah.
And do you have like a like a memory when you first tasted like Grüner Veltliner from the Wachau or from a Riesling from a Wachau, which what you really liked and wanted to replicate maybe?
Yeah, I really liked like for I told you before, it's like really the fruitiness what we have. So it's also in the Grüner Veltliner, of course, in the Riesling, but that's really and the spiciness a little bit that we will really have, and that what I really like. Of course, Grüner Veltliner, the spiciness, and that's what I really what always recommends me or keeps me in memory when I.
Do you use native yeast or?
Yeah, that's also because like I try really like we say it or I say it always like this, that you do the control of doing nothing, so you always not to be really, because the most important thing what you really have to recommend is that the quality established in the vineyards, and in the winemaking, so in the cellar, the next step in the winemaking step, you only can keep it in a bottle. So that's like really I always try to control to close to nothing. But I also work with native yeast because these are, of course, they are grown on the grapes, but they also help me with the yeast, of course. So that's two parts what I use, and it depends on the year. So it's hard to say every year, and that's what I also really like on a winemaking style, that not every year or not every vintage is the same, so you really have to react what's coming, which grapes are coming to the cellar, and then you have to react or decide what you're gonna do or not. So that's a big part.
And do you also use malolactic fermentation like on purpose, or is it happening?
No, I don't use it. I tried it, and I was thinking about if I maybe try some wines, but right now I don't have any experience with that, so I didn't do that right now.
And you use like stainless steel and big oak barrels, or?
Yeah, right now it's also I use stainless steel tanks. This is the part for me, and I try the future, not now, but I also try in the future that I use oak barrels, big oak barrels, where I can store it. Like for example, my Smaragd wines, that will be great. But right now it's really a stainless steel production, 100%.
Okay, beautiful. So let's try maybe the first wine.
Yeah.
Let's read the Klostersatz, right?
Right, yeah. That's read Klostersatz. So that's really also in the eastern part of the Wachau Valley, in the town in Oberleuben. So it's next to where the winery is located. So the next town, it's Klostersatz, and it's right in front of maybe you heard it one time, it's called in German the Franzosendenkmal. There was also a history, because there was in 1805, there was the big fight, the fight against Leuben, so my hometown, and there's always now there's like a monastery who recommends on the fighters there, and that's the history to this single vineyard, the name. And yeah, this single vineyard name is always where I produce my Federspiel, because they are really Grüner Veltliner also there is pretty good with the soil and everything. So what here is the grapes are ripened a little bit earlier, so that's really normally one of the I will say the first single vineyards where I harvest the first, and this gives me always like a really nice full-bodied and like really not so complex, but it's a really like fruitiness Federspiel. That's always perfect for that wine style.
And it's also really sunny, right? Like this type.
Of course, yeah. That's also a good question. So that's why you get the fruitiness out. So now it's sunny. But there you get the fruitiness out. Yeah, right.
Yeah, it's from the color already. It's more like it has a lot of green reflexes.
Yeah, of course, yeah. Yeah, and what I also like, so this 2019 vintage, I know it's pretty young right now, but it's also like what I like at this wine. It's always in the earlier months. It's pretty drinkable already, And that's what I really prefer also at the Federspiel. It's drinkable already, and that's really a fruitiness, a fresh wine, and that's directly what I always recommends me to the Klostersatz, to our Federspiel.
Yeah, it is really fresh. I mean, from the nose, it's very citrusy. It's not.
Right, yeah.
I wouldn't say it's lime, but it's more on the like a Meyer lemon or some kind of like a fruity kind of lemon side.
Fruity somewhat, yeah. That's really, like I told you before, that's really coming from the climate, for the Pannonic climate, from the influence.
And also maybe some salinity, so it's really refreshing the nose already.
Yeah.
Yeah, on the palate as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yesterday we had this wine with the sweet potatoes and some dip. It's really nice because the wine has also some saltiness, but it's also really fruity. And this
was the next part on the palate. Yeah, you have a little bit of saltiness, and that's also like what you yeah.
Yeah, and it was really great to counterbalance the sweetness of the potato, but also it's really nice. Just a secret tip, maybe. It was really nice.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, I will try. Yeah.
But this wine is also like if you would maybe have sprinkled some minerals into the glass, it's
yeah,
really
that's what I
like
also say.
sprinkling.
Like also like the whole Wachau Valley, so the Federspiels and almonds are very good, perfect for food pairing. So they are not so powerful, so they're really a good combination with the food and the wine. So that's normally for Federspiel really a good character. That's a really good food pairing wine. Yeah.
You also do lees aging, or?
No, I don't do that now.
No. But it has a good mid palate as well, so it's doesn't just run through your mouth, but
no, it's a good balance on the mouth.
Yeah, it has some body and really like a fruity aftertaste, but not so saline, so not so salty aftertaste. It's really fruity.
Yeah.
It's really refreshing. And so your intention is making Federspiel and Smaragd in the future as well?
Yeah, that is I have a lot of goals, of course, but for me it was always important when I started that for me is really the qualities and focus, and that I really focus on that what I have and learn to go with the wines. I always see it like that, because you really, when you make your wine, you learn everything, or every year you learn something new, and that's what I tried to expand those course my knowledge, and that's really step by step. So really focus on the quality, and then I'm focused on the quantity and get more varieties or other like Steinfeder as well. So in the future I will plan right now Federspiel and Smaragd, but maybe Steinfeder also will come one day. So.
And how would you characterize maybe, or how would you differentiate between a Steinfeder and a Federspiel in terms of style?
Yeah, so that's always what I like to mention, because the Steinfeder is really one, maybe you know it, Steinfeder, we have some parts where we have the Steinfeder grass, there is the name coming from, and these are really the light wines, and really, I will say the first wines, so like really light and not big balance and not big or powerful, something like that. So there's always the wines what is different to a Federspiel, because a Steinfeder you can drink it so on. It's maybe for food pairing, it's a little bit too less full bodied, and the Federspiel, like I told you before, is really full bodied and is more like on the palate is a little more balanced and everything. So that's more the character what you already have, and that's the main difference. And yeah, Federspiel, the symbol, it's coming from the falconry. So it's a long time ago. It was a sport here in the Wachau, and now we say the Federspiel is also really elegant wine. So classical.
And it's 12.5% alcohol. That's the upper limit for Federspiel, right?
Yeah. Now that's it's going from 11.5, and then you have between the 12.5, and then up there you have more than 12.5.
It has some residual sugar, right? Like not much, but I feel something.
Yeah, it's just a little bit. So really, it's close to a little bit more than 2 grams per liter. So it's pretty,
Well, but it's nice, but because it's refreshing. Like I mean the acidity, but I feel that it's balanced with some. Some other, so it doesn't rise my mouth out. But that's what I mean. It's a good balance. Nice. And this is also like a terraced vineyard, or it's not so?
No, that's not a terraced vineyard. That's a flat vineyard. It's what we have. So it's close next to the Kellerberg, but it's flat vineyards.
Yeah, that's right. And more on the green apple side, but I would say the ripe, like a ripe
green apple. You're right. That's the perfect version. Yes. Yeah, it's a little bit on the ripe side. Yeah.
So what would you pair with it, like with this wine?
This wine is like when you want to compare with a traditional food, Austrian food, is like maybe like Wiener Schnitzel. I always say some people recommended me that. That's also a classical food pairing. But also there's a lot of, I think for me, it's always hard to say because I'm not from the sommelier side, I'm on the winemaking side, but I also like not that when you have like, for me, it's like the next thing is when you have a good meat and it's a Smaragd wine. But here, so classic and through a lunch wine, then it's perfect. A Federspiel also compared. And some people always, the customers always recommend me the Austrian food. The Wiener Schnitzel is a good comparison to the wine, to the Federspiel.
And maybe let's talk about the next one. It's Nomis. What can you tell me a little bit about this name?
Yeah. So when I started to decide to make my own wine, then I decided, okay, I also want to establish my own brand. And this one is then the Nomis. And this Nomis is pretty simple. It's my name from the other direction. So that's like a little of marketing gag, of course, but this is also my brand. And this one, I established this wine because this is also from we talked before, where I planned out another part is where I planned out my new Riesling Federspiel. This part is where also the Burgstall is coming, or the single vineyard where it's coming my nomis from. And this is always like what I mentioned. I want to have a Grüne Veltliner, really a powerful character, and really to recognize the origin also of the single vineyard. And this one I established, okay, I want to harvest. Normally for this wine, I harvest it 2 to 3 times. So first we do the first harvest, pick out the best grapes, and then the other grapes, we let it more ripe, and then we do it normally to 2 to 3 times. It depends on the year, not every year is the same, but this is then really I get all the best, like really the best balance of every, like I'll say, on the grapes out of it, and then we get really the great complexity of the wine and the powerful the structure, and this is always my strategy about this wine.
And like, if you do the first harvesting, for example, and you put like the juice into stainless steel, right?
Yeah.
And then
right.
you do the second harvest, and then maybe do a third harvest, and then you kind of do the assemblage like in champagne, or
right.
Or...
Yeah. What I'll do it normally. It depends on the year, so it's not every year the same. But first, do it separately. So I ferment it separately, and then maybe I blend it together, but really only from the Burgstall. That's for me always important. Or it depends on that. It depends on the year, so it's really hard to say. But normally I blend them together afterwards, right? And keep them separate. But that is really in front of hard to manage or hard to say, because not every year is the same, and it really depends on. So.
And this Burgstall, this has an eastern exposure, right?
Right, yeah.
So, and the other one had southern, or?
Yeah, no, yeah, but the eastern, that's more the eastern part. So Burgstall is we're on the eastern side, and this really, it's not that far away. So it's also close. Everything is close over the Mundel, it's really close. But this is more the eastern part, right? The Nomis, the Burgstall.
And what's the difference in terms of soil between these two?
The soil is also, of course, what I always explain different, because in the Burgstall we also have a little bit of deeper soil, and that what we don't have in the Klostersatz. But that's like, it's not that changing that much, because it's also in Unterleuben, but it's also like in Klostersatz you have a little bit more stones and everything, what you don't have like in the Burgstall. But the next town is really like, it's not that much different, but when you go to the next towns like 5 kilometers far away, then you have another really close to different. And what we have here in Unterleuben, that's also what we have is the Gföhler Gneis. That's one of the main parts what we have. And this is our dominating soil, what we have in Unterleuben, right?
And can you characterize this Gföhler Gneis, because maybe some listeners don't know it? It's a really like a characteristic soil type or rock type here in the Wachau, right?
Yeah, right. So that's what we have, the Gföhler Gneis. That we have to maybe, for example, my favorite vineyard, the Leubenberg, when we came then afterwards, where my Riesling is planted. And that's like a crystalline stone, and it's many, so it's like close to over 500 years old. And it's like really, it's a little bit of Ortler Gneis, what we also then have in Dürnstein, and then it's like here the Gföhler Gneis. So that's the different part, and it's really like, I will say always the deep soil, and yeah, that's how you can describe it. So it's a crystalline stone with a long history.
But it's a really hard stone, right?
Yeah, it's a really hard stone, right? And that's what you also have then, like, for example, you will see it then when you drive through our town, then you see to the Leubenberg, you see the terraces, and there you also see the Gföhler Gneis, where we build our stone walls. And this is also pretty important for us, because in the stone walls, there we are, they storage the heat during the day, and put it in the night, they give it to the soil, so then we also have a warm, so the heat from the day, the stone storage, and give it in the night to the soil, to the wines. And then we have a really, like a little bit, the flowering is early, and that's a really big part, how we are always changing, or that's changing our vineyards.
But in the growing season and the ripening season, like, because for you it's really important, right? And also for aromatic wines, right? That the cooler winds from the Waldviertel, from the north, it's coming, right?
Yeah.
And it cools down the vineyard. So in the ripening and growing season, it's also important for the stone to keep the warmth. So
because that, like, for example, when you have the flowering or something like that, it's also in everything during the year you can see it. It's hard to see sometimes, but it depends also on the year. But then it's really like the stones are storage the heat, and in the night they give it to them, and then the grapes are a little bit farther than down in the flat vineyard. So they are more ripeness a little bit. It's close to really 1 day, or like we say normally 1.5, 2 days, where the ripeness is earlier in the terraces than in the flat vineyards what we have down. where we don't have the stones, the quill of nice, right?
Okay. Nice. Okay, so let's taste it. No miss.
Yeah.
Like it's the vintage is 2018 on this
Yes,
Nomis
right.
Vinea Wachau.
Yeah, right.
So it's without the stamp of the Vinea Wachau, right?
Yeah, that's right. Because that was in 2019, like I told you before, I started with the Vinea Wachau. So the new vintage is already with Federspiel and Smaragd, and the older vintages are without my classifications of the Vinea Wachau. But it's still the wines and the style is the same because I did the same, like I did also the handwork. I did not, so in my cellar, my wine style and my winemaking style, I didn't change anything. So,
but it's a Smaragd quality wine, so to say,
it's
right?
a Smaragd quality wine, right? So it has 14% of alcohol, so it's also a powerful wine, and that's what I told you before. So for this wine, I will always try out to get a powerful character wine, the origin of the single vineyard, and this is always like a really that what I want to have at this wine, right?
And when did you harvest in 2018? Because in Austria it was a record-breakingly early vintage, right?
Yeah, that's of course. But when I think about, we had, for example, the Klostersatz, the first and the Federspiel, we had it in the September, and the Nomis, then we had it a little bit later. But it's also there we did 2 harvests last year, and then the Riesling was also a little bit later. So that's of course, yeah.
What I read sometimes, or what I remember, is that between the western part and the eastern part, there could be also 2 weeks difference in terms of harvest. Is that right?
Of course. That's 2 weeks. It depends also on the year. I don't want to say right. This is 2 weeks, but of course, like I told you before, of the 2 climates. So normally we have a temperature. The average is 1 point, like a little bit 1.8 during the whole year, higher than in Spitz. Wow. So that's really, I mean, it sounds like 1.8, but it's really the average during the whole year, and that's a big part.
Yeah.
And that's one part why the wines are there so minerality, and here are more fruitiness. But also, like for example, when I think about frost, then it's always like for Spitz it's not so good because then it's always cooler there. When we have close to 0 degrees here in Leuven, then we have in Spitz on the other side, maybe it could be that it's -1 or something like that. So that's really always, the temperature is always lower there.
And it has a more like yellowish color, and really has this wine really has a bouquet.
This is a bouquet, right? So this is now more ripeness. I mean, of course, it's now 2018. The wine before was 2019. This is really like a ripe bouquet what you get out, and that's of course because you will have more of the ripeness.
Yeah. Wow.
And this also to the style. So now the 2019 vintage, I didn't bottle it right now. So that's always the wine. So the Federspiel is where I start to bottle in February, March. This wine is going out very early, and the Smaragd will need some time. So I let him time in the cellar and bottle him in May, July, August. So really later and give him more time. First, I give him more time on the wines to increase the sugar and the ripeness, and afterwards I give him also more time in the cellar, and then I bottle him.
No, it's beautiful, but it's more on the cooked side of fruit, I would say, more on the yellow side. On the nose, to be honest, it was somewhat close in the beginning, but now it's opening
that
up.
That is also like the 2018 vintage is now close to like like a little bit more close to 1 year in a bottle. So first the Curmentlina, I tasted it. And right now also you need a little bit more time in the glass, but afterwards it opens it, and that's always the part because maybe it is 1 year older.
This wine has lower acidity than the first one, or I just
feel
like
a little bit. Yeah, it's a little bit lower acidity what we have in the 2018 vintage. Yeah.
Yeah, in this one the body is more dominant, but the acidity is there. So
yeah, the acidity is still there. I mean, it's close to the same to like them before. But what we have here is a good balance of we have a little bit of residual sugar, so there we have a little bit more than the other one, and then also it's really good balance with the acidity and the sugar, and that's also for me very important that you have on a plate that you really have a good balance of the acidity and as well of the sugar.
Yeah, and in terms of aromas, I mean, everyone is different. You can that maybe otherwise, but it's more on the yellow
fruit
stone fruit.
Yeah.
And maybe this honeydew melon, so really on the ripe and sweet kind of fruit.
But this always say, like you said, the stone fruit, what I also say is a hint of apricot. That will also say, and that's always perfect. And like you say, it's a really good inviting bouquet. Also a good body, I think.
Yeah.
And Then also on the plate, you have hints of stone fruit. You have, but still the fine acidity, and you also like a little bit touch of honey. It's like a little melon aftertaste, something like that.
Yeah, it's also a bit sticky.
Yeah, right.
I can also feel the sugar, so it's nice. It would be also nice with some food that has some milkiness to it, like creaminess.
Right, yeah, creaminess, that's also good. And that was like with a meat or something like that as well. It's also really good possible because it's really a powerful wine, so they also can good combine with the wine.
Yeah, and also in the after there's like some nuttiness, also like peanut or some kind of, this.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting. Nice wine. Maybe about the next wine, Ried Leuvenberg.
Right, yeah. So now we have to.
This is your favorite one?
This is my favorite one because like a favorite wine as well. So I like Riesling. It's also my favorite grape variety, and as well is the Leuvenberg. So for me, it was always I remembered in for my childhood where I worked all by hand. So that's really different. So this vineyards, the terraces is really doing the whole work. What you have during the years behind, not only the harvest like we have in the closer side, so the Feder and the Burgstall, what you have in the flat vineyards where you only harvest by hand and so on. You can help you with the tractor or something like that, and the machinery. But in the Leuvenberg is really everything done by hand. And then you have like small hand machines, but you have really the other things, whatever it is, the defoliate or something like that, you have to do it by hand.
And it's one of the warmest sites in the Wachau, right?
It's one of the warmest sites, right? So it's a really big, like I was saying, big single vineyard. It's close up to 50 hectares all in total, and it goes up to a sea level of close to 500 meters. So it's also pretty high, and there it's also like the stone walls. What we have there, what's really for us important and really, of course, beautiful as well. But that's because you have to talk about the Wachau. The Wachau, you have a big biodiversity, and of course, when you think about the stone walls, there you have a lot of like room where you everything like the small animals or something like that. Also, the smaragd, the lizards can live there. So it's a big living. I will say it was like a living room too, and there you have the beneficial organisms who are living there as well. So that's also.
And also in terms of distance from the Danube, because it's also a great part in terms of microclimate, right? And
of course,
it's a bit more far maybe than.
It's a little bit more far.
Memory only, but I think it is, right?
Yeah, it is. It is. It's not that much, but it is, of course. Yeah, and that was also maybe I forgot to mention before. That's to climate, and then we also have, of course, the influence of the Danube. So that's also that gives us a little bit the coolness of the temperature, and takes the everything with their down. So the Danube, I will say like this.
But it also tempers the extremes, right? So
of course, yeah, of course.
You also don't have any late frost, or do you have any problems with that?
Yeah, frost is always like every year. We are hoping that we don't get frost, of course. But like this year, we also had some frost days. And for our apricots this year, it looks like really hard because we have around 6-7 days, I think already we had. We had -6, -5, -4 degrees, something like this. And so our apricot, the flowering is always earlier than on the wines. So with the apricot trees, what we also have in the Wachau, I think this year it will be hard. So damaged a lot. But at the wines, we also had 2 days ago. 2 days ago, we had their part where we have like a little bit of cool temperature, but it wasn't us in Leuven. We are lucky because we had close to 0 degrees, so that was fine.
Nice. Wow, the nose, yeah.
Yeah, that's not the reasoning what I always like, because like you said, always when people smell into wine and the nose, they always say, oh, that's like the really apricot, what you get the peach, the flavors, what you all have in the nose. And that's what I really like at the Leuvenberg, because they're really, the fruitiness comes really with the Riesling together, it comes really good out of the glass, So that's always.
Yeah, and almost like mandarin,
Yeah, right.
It's really, but also really flowery as well, like an apricot flower.
Flowers, yeah. Apricot, peach.
Almond flowers.
This,
really nice. Wow, it's a really complex nose and really pronounced, really intensive. So.
Yeah, of course. It's also like what I like. It's a little bit also like a minerality what you have with the ripeness of the Riesling, and on the plate you always have this. What I like in this wine also, what can I say for the winemaking style? This wine always have a little bit more of the residual sugar. And the residual sugar, I stop the fermentation. So that means in the end, I always look and taste the wine, and then I stop the fermentation. Maybe sometimes, or it depends on how the vintage is, but then I'm cooling down the wine, and then you get the residual sugar still in the wine, and that makes, for me, it depends on the acidity also. I have to look at that as well. But when you have a nice acidity, then I also give it like a little bit of residual sugar, and this is also then perfect the combination for the Riesling, because then you have the apricot and the flavors in the mouth, and over with the residual sugar, it helps the Riesling like in the mouth a little bit on the plate. That we also like to do.
And how many residual sugar does this one?
This one has a little bit more this year. So 2019, I had around 6, and this one has a little bit more, close to also 6.5, something like that.
So that the 2018 vintage, yeah, but
right. Yeah.
So that's less than 7 grams. So
yeah,
really, if you read on the label dry, can also have like 9 grams of sugar.
9 grams, right? It depends on the acidity. That's what you also have to look.
Yeah,
so that's
like acidity plus 2 grams, right?
Yeah, right.
And the acidity on this wine, do you remember the 2018 one?
This one, I remember. This one has also, for example, that we had 5.2, so close, a little bit more than 5. What we had.
Yeah, so that's what I thought, because for me, it was a little bit more like an Alsatian style Riesling. So it's not like bursting acidity and like buzzing and the electricity, but like on the palate, the flavors what came to my mind is more like the mango, ananas. So it's
right. It's got really, a little bit in the tropical fruits. I would say.
Yeah. Not so much acidity, but more like luscious,
Luscious, right.
Thunder. Nice.
So this was just like also like a little bit because of what I also, some customers always recommend to me. Maybe the perfect Wachau apricot dumplings was really famous.
Yeah. True.
And also a lot of people tell me, I made pretty beautiful apricot dumplings, and together with your Riesling, and that's with the residual sugar, it's so fine and good combination, everything. So that's also very good.
True. But it has a really long aftertaste and really evolving.
Yeah. And that's also like for Smaragd. First we mentioned the Steinfeder cross, and the Federspiel, the symbol. Now that's 2018 is not the Smaragd, but 2019 is then the Smaragd. And this is there we have the Smaragd is the lizard. So that's that's also the symbol for that, because we are not allowed to add sugar to our wine. So that's really natural sugar, what we have during the fermentation, where we get our alcohol from. And that means that the wines for the Smaragd, or the grapes for the Smaragd wines, are ripeness longer, and we harvest them later. So that means they are ripening, or they are lying in the sun. I always like to say it like this, because the beautiful lizards, maybe something you have to see already, they are grabbing on the stones and the stone walls, and they also, in the morning, you see it very often, they are lying outside on the stones in the sun, and then they get the beautiful color, the green, blue, what they have. And this is also the same with the Smaragd grapes. So they are really also like lying in the sun and increasing their sugar. And that's why we have the symbol Smaragd wine.
And just maybe going back to the minerality, because I read a really great book on rocks and minerals in the vineyard. It also like debates that the minerality in the wine is coming from the minerals from the soil. So what's your take on that? So why? Because it's also really typical that, for example, if I drink volcanic wines, I can really taste the salinity and minerality and this inorganic element to it, And also in these wines from the Wachau and maybe from the Moser, from the schist, what is your philosophy maybe behind this minerality? Or why do you think we feel that and we don't feel it in other wines from other regions?
So that's, of course, the minerality always comes from the soil. So that's a big part. And then you have it like, for example, when we talk about the Spitz, the town, there you have a different soil, like the Wachau, the Marmor, it's called the marble. And there is really like also gives the minerality into the wines. Like here in Leuben, we have the like I told you before, the parent rock is the Quillag gneiss, and it's a metamorphic rock. And it's really transferred from acidic and granitic parent rock, And there is like really out of the soil, and it's not really deep on the Leubenberg. So it means there's like a little bit, I don't know, I will say half a meter, depends on really where you are. So that you have the soil and the really where you can go into, and afterwards you really have the stone already. So that's always sometimes hard when you want to plant out new, that you really want to plant your your wines, and then really you see, oh, there's already the stone, and that's really the part when it's really close to there. That's the minerality really comes into the wines as well. So this is, like I always mention, a big part. It's the really soil is the big influence of that.
But do you think that there's like the topsoil, like with full of humus and but gives also life to other things like grass and other plants in nature? Do you think that in these vineyards, the topsoil is more full of minerals and quartz and things like this? So that's what the grape can like observe.
That's what you mentioned. That was the next part when I want to mention, that you really have the minerals in the soil as well, and there you get it out. And that, like you mentioned, in the topsoil, sometimes you have that, of course, and there you also get it out of that. So that's perfect. Yeah, good complaint. So.
And why do you think that Rhine Riesling has found its home in the vineyards and also in Wachau in general? So
that's a good question
for sure, but
yeah.
Riesling.
Yeah, that's a good question, because like I always did my research on grape varieties in the Wachau Valley, and it was really first I found in one book that already in the 1300 centuries already the first Riesling was mentioned in my hometown. So they did it a long time ago. And also Riesling likes, it's like a little bit later ripeness, and this is here perfect because they are now in the, like I told you before, in the stone walls what we have, that they really get the heat, and so they helps the Riesling, the grape variety, to get a little bit more ripeness, because they're normally later than Grünweltliner, and so also the soil, they like the perfect on the terraces. So we like in the Wachau Valley, through Dürnstein, Weißenkirchen, and Spitz, normally we are planting the Riesling on the terraces because there's the perfect soil for that, and we have the heat from the stones.
And you're also gonna experiment with other grape varieties, so
yeah,
like
that's
maybe
also,
a red.
For me, it's like, of course, because I really want to learn more, and for me, I have something in plan and I have my goals already. So, but we will see. It's hard because sometimes when you plant the wines, and it takes 3-4 years out that you get the first grapes. So I decide, and I'm looking forward to get maybe new vineyards where I can plant my other grape varieties, but I maybe want to try Neuburger or Traminer or maybe Rote Veltliner, something like that. So this will be for me really, hopefully I can do that in the future, and that will be for me my next plans. And I hope I get some grapes or from other vintners in the Wachau, or maybe I plant them by my own. So, but I have to find the perfect place, like I told you before. And yeah, so maybe it takes a few years, but of course I want to try some other grape varieties as well.
But it's good to hear that you want to do it with indigenous grapes. So
yeah, what I like, I mean, Neuburger, the story, a lot of people are coming back to the Neuburger was found here in the Wachau Valley, and that's also like a grape variety, and like not that much people using the grape variety anymore, and it's getting less and less. So I really try to also plant them out, and to give him like a new, that it gets popular again or something like that. And of course, Rote Veltliner is for me a part because they're really great grape variety. And then a friend of mine, another wine region, also makes a great Rote Veltliner, and I really like the grape. So that's why I want to maybe also make a wine out of it and try my experience and how I can handle the grape variety. And also maybe Traminer, because some wineries also do that, and they also really like great wines. Maybe also you make a little bit like sweet wines, like for example Bernerslese or something like that out of the Traminer. It's also a great idea, but maybe could be in the future. So there we will see.
Nice, good luck with that.
Yeah, thank you.
And in your opinion, like if you are looking for a great wine, or do you want to enjoy another wine in the evening, what's not a Wachau wine maybe, what do you look for in a great wine in your free time?
Yeah, that was for me always is like I mentioned, of course Wachau wine, I drink it very often, of course, but also I like to drink some wines from other wine regions close to the Wachau to see maybe how different they are, or how they made their wines, because they also really good wines. But when I'm looking far abroad, when I go to restaurants in the evening and then with my friends or with my family, then I really like to get old wines. So really back to the 90s, something like that, because there's really what I like to see how the wines develop over the years in the bottle, and they're really made, already had great wines. Like I know 1997 was a great vintage, but I already had really great wines. And when I think overseas, then I really like the red wines from Napa Valley. That was one of my favorites. Well, I mean, I did my internship there, and I get to know a lot of wineries and the wine style there. But there's a really nice Cabernet Sauvignons and one of the best Merlots what I had so far from the Napa Valley. Yeah.
Where were you exactly in Napa Valley?
I was in Napa Valley. I was at Joseph Phelps in St. Helena, and that was a great experience for me. It's also still family-owned winery. I really highly can recommend the winery. It was a great time for me, and I learned a lot. And yeah, it was a great experience.
Nice. And why do you think we cannot see too much red grapes or red wines from the Wachau yet? Because I see more and more Pinot Noir on the market from the Wachau.
That's of course one of them is the climate and the soil. But of course, that we are here in the Wachau Valley, we are making really good Knivadlina and Riesling and the red wines. I don't want to say we can do it, but we can do it. But it's another, like, we need more for really great red wines, what they like produce in the Burgenland and something like that. They have really more the sun hours on the grapes and everything, so that they get the ripeness of everything is from the red grape varieties is better in the Burgenland, and so that's why less people are producing it here. Sometimes now it's get a little bit more of a trend that they produce rosé wine, but it's still, I'm also on the side that I produce the wines, and we focus on the white wines, and that one is really great here from the soil and from the climate, and then taste the wines or drink the red wines from the Burgenland.
Yeah, sure. And it's also your profile, that's the face of the region. So
of course, yeah. So it's not like when I think also when I researched about the grape varieties also a long time ago, they did also still white wine. So they also mentioned that red wine is not here the best climate and the best soil for red wines. And that's also a part. So we really have to focus, or we are focusing I can speak from my side, that I will focus on the white wines and get everything out of that, what we have here.
And maybe just some words about the marketing and social media, because I also found you on social media. And you are quite active on social media, or on Instagram at least. So where do you see the role of the social media now in the winemaking?
Yeah, that is like when I came to the part to the coronavirus. I mean, this part is right now, I would say, I mean, it sounds hard, but with the coronavirus, many people are now coming up to and making marketing and making a web shop and everything. So I always say that every crisis what we have bring up a little bit some positive benefits, because this, for me, I mean, I'm young and everything, and next generation. But there's marketing, and that you have a website, that everything is up to date, that people get information about your wines, about your winery, about your philosophy, what you do out of the internet. That's for me, of course, very important. I think that's also a big part what I did. So when I decided to make my own wine, of course, I said, okay, then, I mean, there's one of the label one style, the marketing should work on the label and also like on the social media and the homepage and everything included. So there we have I built a strategy. So, and I looked where is my target group and everything, and then I decided what I did. And yeah, my girlfriend is helping me there a lot, and because she is really into the social media, and she's helping me a lot with all the stuff. And then we try to get out the best. And I mean, it's easy, and some people, you know, they want to know what's going on in the vineyards, they want to know what's going on, what you're doing, and then you can give them a little bit of impression what you're doing during the day. And that's why I think it's a really great thing, social media. And I'm thinking about now it's easy because you get in a few seconds or in a few minutes when you post a picture, you can get, I don't know, 1,000, 2,000 more or less. People all over the world can see your picture, and that's really great what you have for advertising. I will say cheap advertising, and in a really fast way. And that's, of course, you see it now, some vintners are start to with web shops and everything. That I think is good, because that's normally we should have to, and that people get an impression what's going on and everything. But I mean, you always have to look where's the target group and what you want to do, what is your goal, what you want to achieve, because marketing, you can spend a lot of money, and when you don't focus where you're gonna spend your money, then it's gone and it doesn't help you anything. So that's always a big part.
Yeah, true. And it's also much more authentic. So
of course, yeah. And it's really, like you said, authentic. So really, we are humans, and when there's something funny, then it's also like that's what people like to see, and not always the strict and everything is nice. And so people really be yourself, and that's the best part, I think.
Yeah. And also when I serve guests at the table, I also sometimes experience that when they recommend me wine, because they realize that I have a wine podcast, and they recommend me wine, and they pull out their phones and they show me the Instagram page of the winery. You know, they show me, okay, yeah, this is the winery. This is a really nice guy. He makes the wine. So people are really looking for this personal stories and personal attachment. So I think you are doing a great job, and keep it up.
So. Of course, yeah. I mean, and the next generation, of course, I was growing up with all the smartphones and the social media. So for me, it's not like, I don't see it as a work. For me, it's like to share it with other people, and I get nice recommendations. That's nice for me. And that, like you said, you get impressions and people can see what's going on. And then that's, I think, is a big part.
Yeah, true. Keep it up. So I'm going to put this in the description, your Instagram. And I hope a lot of people will follow you. It's a great page. So, Simon, do you want to add maybe a final word, or do you want to tell me something more?
No, yeah. Thank you for everything, for the podcast. It was for me the first time. So it was a really nice experience. And thank you for inviting me to doing the interview together. And yeah, whenever you are in the Wachau Valley, please come by. I'm open for everybody, and also for sure for you. So I show you my vineyards, also of course the Leubenberg and everything. So let's come by whenever you have time, and I'm looking forward to that. So thank you.
Wow, thank you. I will. After this craziness is over, I'll be there as well.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, and it was a great experience, and I wish you all the best with your wine. So I hope you're gonna have a great future.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Simon. Bye.
Bye.